Alright, number 3, we want to find the inverse cosine. Inverse cosine of -1/2. Alright, so remember our restrictions for cosine where we need to be between 0 and pi. So that's very important. So on the unit circle, if I pull this up, the unit circle between 0 and pi would be the top half all the way till we get here. And we were looking for a -1/2. So again, while I like this, it shows you where they're negative. Cosine up here is positive. Over here, it's down here in red, is negative. So cosine represents the x coordinate. So I'm looking for the x coordinate, the first one to be -1/2, right here. So the angle that corresponds is 2 pi over 3 and 120. The radian and degree. 2 pi over 3 and 120. So, and it's exactly between those limits, so we don't have to change anything. 2 pi over 3 and 120 degrees. Both of those are the same angle. One in radians, one in degrees. So 2 pi divided by 3 and then 120. Alright, so now number 4, we want to find inverse cosecant, CSC. Alright, so you have to recall which trig function this comes from. So this is -2 square root of 3 over 3. Now, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. Okay, so you got to recall that this comes from cosecant is 1 over sine. So and I can see from here that I have a square root of 3 and 2. So on the unit circle, once you become familiar with it, you've used it quite a bit, you'll begin to recognize some of this. When you look at all the sine values or any of the unit circle values, you have square root of 3 over 2. You got square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2. That's all it does is repeat square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. You also have square root of 2 over 2. But all it does is flip-flop, change signs. Those are the only ones that show up. So since I noticed square root of 3 over 2 in this problem, square root of 3, it's not over 2, but I noticed there's a 2 there. I know that my value for sine has to be square root of 3 over 2. It's just that it has been flipped because of reciprocal. So think about it like this. If I had 1 over the square root of 3 over 2, you would keep the top, change to multiplication and flip that. So it would be 2 divided by the square root of 3. And then when you rationalize the denominator, you would get 2 square root of 3 over 3. So that's what we have. So I know that it came from square root of 3 over 2, just from familiarity with the unit circle. Now the fact that it's negative says you need to find negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay? And I need to find that in the y value because it comes from sine, the reciprocal function. So I'm going to my unit circle. I'm looking for negative square root of 3 over 2. Now, I also want to show you the restrictions here. I got to be careful. They change up a bit. So on page 525 of the textbook, it gives you a full-blown chart of all the sine, all the trig functions and their inverses and all their restrictions. So similar to sine, which restricts between negative pi and pi over 2 included, cosecant is broken up because 0 is there. And because of reciprocal, if I get 0 and I'm doing 1 divided by 0, it's going to be undefined. So they have to take that 0.0 out. So the restriction is still between negative pi to 2 pi, but you have to remove 0. So that's why this extra piece is here. But for all intents and purposes, this comes from sine. I'm looking for the y value. I'm looking for negative square root of 3 over 2. And we have to be restricted from the right half of the circle. So negative square root of 3 over 2. Sine is negative down here. Cosecant is negative down here. The y value right here, negative square root of 3 over 2. And the corresponding angles would be 5 pi over 3 and 300. So those will be my angle answers, 5 pi over 3 and 300. 5 pi over 3 and 300. Now, we have to adhere to our restrictions, meaning we need to convert this so that it is between negative pi over 2 to 0 and 0 to pi over 2. So same method will apply what we did to sine. We have to subtract 2 pi. Now 2 pi I'm going to go ahead and convert. Common denominator is 3, so 2 pi times 3 will give me 6 pi over 3. So that would still equal 2 pi. When I do that math, we get 6 minus 5, which is 1 pi negative over 3. So negative pi over 3, and then I do my 300 minus 360 to get me within those limits of negative 90 to 0. These are degrees. To 0 to 90, positive 90, that's the same measurement. It's always the case. That will give us negative 60. Okay. So, and you can also kind of count back if you wanted to kind of do it by hand. Starting from here, you got 30, 60, 90. Just skip the middle, it's always a 45. So if I'm going backwards, it'd be negative 30, negative 60, negative 90. You can do that as well. It might be even faster. But I just want to kind of show you the mathematical way of getting it done. So this will be negative pi divided by 3. Negative pi divided by 3. And this one will give us a negative 60. So depending on the direction you're going, you count either forward by 30s or backwards by 30s. And then the half angles are 45. But that's it.